Hi, my name is Stephen Murphy, and I'm a partner here at Block O'Toole and Murphy. And if you're looking for information about a wrongful death lawsuit in New York, you've come to the right place. Wrongful death is when someone is killed because of the negligence of another individual. There's some important information that you need to know before you contemplate bringing a wrongful death lawsuit. First off, you have 2 years from the date of death to initiate a lawsuit. That 2-year period is called a statute of limitations. It's not to be taken lightly. If you are beyond the 2-year period in New York, you will not have the opportunity to bring a case on behalf of your loved one. A wrongful death lawsuit is not like any other lawsuit. Typically in a lawsuit, you just file a summons and complaint against your opponent. But in a wrongful death case, every estate needs to have a representative. If the person who passes dies with a will, then that representative is called the executor or executrix, depending on their gender. And the will lay out exactly who will be the representative of the deceased. But in many instances, a person will pass without having a will, without having a personal representative named. And then you have to go through a process where that personal representative is appointed by the court. In New York, that court is called the surrogate's court. You submit a petition asking the court to recognize a particular individual to be the representative of that estate. Often it's a relative, but it doesn't have to be. Once a representative is appointed by the surrogate's court, that gives that person the opportunity legally to retain a lawyer, and then that lawyer can file a lawsuit. Now, frequently, that lawyer has already been chosen and has initiated this process. Once the lawyer is ready to go, they will file what's known as a summons and complaint, naming the individuals who they believe to be responsible for the death of this individual. The other side will have the opportunity to respond by submitting an answer. Then the case goes through the legal process. The legal process, once it's in court, involves discovery, where there's an exchange of information, there's depositions that are held, experts are identified and disclosed, with the plaintiff doing that as well as the defendants. And then there's an opportunity for each side to negotiate prior to the case going to trial. You want to have an experienced lawyer by your side because the law is completely different in a wrongful death case than any other case. You have a different statute of limitations, and the areas of recovery are very specific. This isn't about emotion in New York, it's about pecuniary laws. A smart lawyer will guide you through that process. A good lawyer, when they're framing a wrongful death case, needs to think about not only the death part of the case, but also what happened before. Was there a fear of impending death? Was there anything about the impact of the accident that would have provided the victim terror? That's called pre-impact terror. Also, what pain and suffering did the victim endure between the time of the accident and their passing? It sounds cold, but a good lawyer is going to try and advocate on behalf of their client and persuade the other side that the victim experienced a degree of suffering prior to their passing. That pain and suffering, while not part of a wrongful death case, is still crucial to every single wrongful death lawsuit. How do you prove someone's pain and suffering? It could be through the testimony of eyewitnesses. It could be through medical records or medical tests. It also could be through the testimony of a qualified, experienced forensic pathologist. Typically in a wrongful death lawsuit, the defendant will have an insurance company that's standing behind them. The defendant to the insurance company is recognized as their insured, and the insurance company is trusted with the obligation of protecting their insured. So when you're negotiating a case, you're not just negotiating with a defense attorney, you're also negotiating with a representative from the insurance company. When you bring a wrongful death lawsuit, there are a lot of different avenues of recovery that a good lawyer should be thinking about. One is funeral expenses. Another is medical expenses that may have incurred prior to the deceased passing. Section 4 of the EPTL, the Estates, Powers, and Trust Law, is something that every good wrongful death lawyer is intimately familiar with. The EPTL lays out exactly who can recover in a lawsuit. They're called in New York distributees. Now, typically what you're going to find is that spouses and children are the ones most often recovering in a wrongful death lawsuit, and that makes sense. If you lose, for instance, the husband in a family, the father in a family, The wrongful death lawsuit can be brought on behalf of the surviving spouse, the wife, as well as any children. And one of the areas that you can recover in a wrongful death lawsuit is the loss of parental guidance. And that doesn't have any limits to what that recovery can be. It's really based on the ages of the children, the relationship between parent and child, and what guidance that parent would have expected to have provided to these children had he or she lived a normal life. What can a good lawyer do to develop that part of the case? Really delve into the parent-child relationship. Talk to the children, talk to the surviving spouse. Talk about the things that they did together, the support that that parent provided, the stability that that parent lent to the family and thus benefited the children. Another area of recovery is the financial loss that a family sustains. When someone's working and they tragically pass, what financial loss does that family experience? A good lawyer will review tax returns, will review any estate paperwork, will look at the wages that a person earned, what they saved, what they put away for their children, and really take that to the other side and establish a baseline for recovery. When we talk about wrongful death, everyone thinks first about grief. They think about the anguish that a family goes through when they lose a loved one. But in New York, the law is different. It's about pecuniary loss predominantly. Right now, there is a bill that Governor Kathy Hochul is considering. It's passed the legislature, and it's called the Grieving Families Act. And it would provide family members an opportunity to recover if they lose a loved one for their grief and for their sorrow. We're watching carefully to see how that plays out. But as of now, the law in New York is all about pecuniary loss. If someone you love has been killed because of the negligence of another person, you have an opportunity to bring a wrongful death lawsuit. You want to have a seasoned, experienced trial lawyer by your side. At Block, O'Toole & Murphy, we have a long track record of representing families in wrongful death lawsuits. You can take a look at our website, www.blockotoole.com, or you can give us a call, 212-736-5300.